Good morning, everyone. Good morning, happy Saturday. And my name is Olu Kunle, and on behalf of RCCG Winners Chapel and Yaya Academy, I do want to thank you for all attending our first career seminar titled, Navigating the Changing Landscape of Your Careers. Amen? So, I just want to quickly do some opening remarks, and I'll quickly hand off to our facilitator for today's meeting. But again, thank you all those that are here physically at Winners Chapel and those that are also online. Just quickly talking about what we're trying to do here and why we're trying to do it. So I'll tell you a story because I try and prefix everything I do with stories. Next year will actually be 30 years that I came back to this country. All right, I was born here and then left, and 30 years ago I came here to attend college at the shy age of 14. I'm just kidding. Obviously, I'm older than that. At an age of 17. And like every kid from an immigrant family, right, there are only three occupations that make sense for your parents. A medical doctor, being a lawyer, or being an engineer, right? And guess which one my parents thought I should do? The one that brought the most income, obviously being a medical doctor. So I came here and I registered at Wayne State University in downtown Detroit, for some of you that don't know online. And I started off there. And I did biochemistry, I did biology, I did physics, I did physiology, I did anatomy, I did organic chemistry 1, organic chemistry 2. And in my fourth year, I was about to start studying for my MCATs. How many of you know what MCATs are? The medical, yeah. So the board exams you need to get into medical school. And my pre-medical advisor said, hey, Olu, fantastic grades. I think you're going to ace the MCATs. I don't think it will be an issue for you to get into Wayne State with full scholarship, the medical school. But we noticed on your resume you don't have one thing. And I was like, what's that? Like, you've never worked in a medical environment. You've never volunteered. You've never been in a hospital environment. I was like, well, that's true. It's like, how are you sure you're going to love this thing? I'm like, I will love it, So she said, you know what, still go ahead and volunteer at Wayne State Medical School for the summer. So she gave me a letter, and I took it to the school, and they put me at Detroit Receiving, the Detroit Emergency, Wayne State University Detroit Receiving Hospital, #1 trauma center in the country. And I go in there the first day, like with the mindset that I'm going to love this. And I walked in there, and the very next day, I went and I changed my major from from pre-medical sciences to computer science. The very next day. In fact, I don't think I even finished my shift that day. I actually left, and I moved on. And why did I even pick computer science, right? Because I just love playing video games, and at that point in time, I'm like, okay, computer science is probably the only thing that will make me develop games that I love to play. But I spent 4 years before I realized that I couldn't deal with blood. I couldn't handle blood. When I walked into Detroit Receiving that day, there were tons of patients, #1 trauma center. So there were things going on, and I just realized I couldn't deal with the hospital environment. But I'd done what? I'd spent 4 years of my time, 4 years of my resources, right, preparing for something that I was never going to use, right? And I see a lot of that happening in today's world. Now, even with computer science, by the way, that I dropped in mysteriously, because many of you would have said, hey, why don't you go and do, pharmacy or something. Like I said, I love playing video games, so the only thing that came up in my head when I walked in to change was, computer science, I'll be able to program video games. I was lucky that I was actually now good at programming. So one of the summers that after I changed my major, I started, I got a scholarship from the National Science Foundation in computer science to go do some research work in a new field. It wasn't new that time, called artificial intelligence. It wasn't broad. This was in 1998. It wasn't broadly known then. It was a very niche thing. And I went in, and I was there working with some professors that were doing some great work around that area called artificial intelligence. And I was like, man, I'm so bored. I'm tired. I don't feel like doing this. So I finished my semester, and then instead of continuing with artificial intelligence, I dropped out of the artificial intelligence world, went into core software engineering, and that's how I never got into software engineering. But before I left, the professor that was my professor during my summer month in artificial intelligence said, Olu, this thing is going to change the world. I didn't listen to him. I was like, nah, this is not going to change the world. This is all science fiction. This is all Star Trek. He was like, Olu, this thing is going to change the world. And where are we now? Everything we do in this world is powered by AI, right? I am literally wearing like my watch here, my Whoop here, my cell phone, probably even my belt has some AI inside it, right? Everything, every aspect of our life is being touched by this technology. So when we started talking about, this career seminar, like what would be our inaugural theme, right? One of the things we did was we did some research and we looked at, all the careers that are actually in decline and the ones that are on the upcline. And we found out that of the top 10, at least 6 or 7 of them either had technology or some level of artificial intelligence aligned to it. And that's one of the reasons we're bringing this here today. So we have tons of great speakers that will soon be introduced that will be here to talk about this changing landscape of careers and how technology is impacting it, specifically artificial intelligence. I want you guys to be attentive, right? I don't want you guys to make the same mistakes I made, right? And by the way, the medical mistake cost me about what? Back then was about $80,000 to finish a degree. Now, you know how much it is to finish a 4-year degree. Like, don't make that mistake, right? But luckily for me, even though moving to computer science, it was because of playing video games, I've been blessed. Coming out of college, I worked for IBM Global Services, right, as a software engineer for 3 years. Then I moved on to become a program manager, become this, become that. And then I left there after 6 years, and I joined Deloitte Consulting in their technology strategy practice. And then doing that, and then I joined General Electric for 9 years, where I met Sean Rufus, who was also a technologist there. And now I'm at Liberty Mutual, doing what I love, which is technology. I finally fell in love with technology, not because of the video games, but because it became a natural alignment for me, right? So even though I made that mistake, it still turned out well for me. But I'm hoping that you don't have to pay that 4-year penalty like I did. So without further ado, I want to introduce the facilitator of today's program, Sean Rufus, who will guide and direct every aspect of this program today. So let's give him a round of applause, please.
Thank you so much, Kunle. It's been an interesting journey, right? Starting out and knowing him. It's one thing to know somebody in church, but knowing him on a professional level. A couple of times some years ago, I saw him and he was reading some books. And 4 out of those books were artificial intelligence books. So I knew something was up. Just to quickly get things rolling, again, my name is Sean Rufus. I'm going to be a facilitator and a host for today. So I'll give you a couple of housekeeping rules or housekeeping things that we need to keep in mind. Again, I appreciate all our online viewers and those in person. For those online, please want to ensure that your microphones are muted when you're not speaking. Also, we're going to try something, right? And I want to gauge the pulse of everyone in this session, whether you're in person or you're viewing this online. So we're going to show you a survey, a poll on Slido, and I want to get your pulse. So if you go to slido.com and check, or just use the code careers24 on slido.com. In the poll section, if you can just on your phone, on your device, just put in your pulse. What's one word that describes your expectation of this meeting, your expectation of this seminar? What's one word? Okay. So we're going to see, all right, knowledge, learn. Because one of the things I've learned in my professional career is to at least feel the pulse. And for those that are part of the Blue Oval family, you know we're very particular about listening to people's pulse. All right, these are very wonderful words there. Knowledge, networking, connect, motivate, direction, learn, inspiration, creativity. I love that. Thank you very much for that. So again, now that we have a pulse of where people's expectations are, we're also going to be using Slido for our question and answers. So for each session, after the session is done, we're going to have a session for just asking questions, and we're going to use Slido, using the same code, careers24 on slido.com to do that. Now for my physical attendees, those that are attending in person, please, I want to encourage you as much as possible, please, less distraction. I know there's so many things that can distract us, but less distraction, prepare thoughtful questions. Also, we have the bathrooms are, if you go outside of the main auditorium, they're somewhere on your right. Also, we have some emergency exits around. Also, there are going to be breaks and refreshments after each session, and we're going to direct everyone to those specific points in due time. Now, our agenda today is simple, but chief of it is we want you to come and immerse yourself in an atmosphere of learning. Someone asked, I was speaking to a young adult a couple of days ago and just intimating them on why the career fair. And I heard something like, it's IT, I don't want to change my job. I'm like, career seminars are not necessarily for you to change your job. It's to give you a perspective on where the world is going. And I couldn't be more proud about the theme of this event, the future of work, navigating the changing landscape. I can assure you, by the time you are done today, that goalpost would have changed again. So we want to make sure that we're positioned right for whatever is coming as regards our careers. Without further much ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. I'm so honored to do this because as a member of the Blue Oval family, it's my pleasure to introduce Carla Hernandez Latin. She's a Senior Director of Human Resources at Ford Motor Company and is an experienced HR professional that has spanned over 2 decades. In her current role, her primary responsibilities include supporting global enterprise technology team, building, rewarding, and retaining supporting talents. Our focus is on increasing employee experience during a time of considerable industry and company transformation. She graduated from the distinguished University of Michigan, Go Blue. And she also holds a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University in Communications. I told Dami I was going to have a conversation with her about that. Outside of work, Carla enjoys traveling, reading, and attending our children's supporting events. Her talk today, titled Introduction to Technology, Evolving Career Paths. It promises to enlighten us, provide us with valuable perspectives, and give us some insights into the changing landscape of work. I encourage everyone to listen, be ready as we go on this journey. So please join me as I welcome to the stage Carla Hernandez. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes in.
Okay, so in looking at the Slido poll, I'm now nervous because somebody said they want to be blown away today. And I'm not sure I can do that for everybody, but I can spend some time talking a little bit about the changing landscape and maybe giving some advice on career development. As you know, we are in this really changing time in our world and changing time specifically in the United States. So I want to talk a little bit to start off, and let me move my slide forward here, about the job market. And it's not moving, let's see. Slides that I can't move. Are you guys blown away yet? Okay, wait, I think I got it. All right, so let's talk about the job market. As in a lot of other things, the job market also changes. And so today in the US, the job gains are outpacing the losses, which is good. So this means if you're out there in the market and you're looking for a job, there's probably plenty to choose from. So even though a lot of times we see in the headlines about all the different layoffs, that the job gains, again, are outpacing the losses. And so I was also reading this week in a publication called CIO that 61% of managers say they plan to hire for a few new roles in 2024. So that's also a good thing for folks who are out there looking for jobs because the jobs will be plentiful. And when I talk about jobs, I'm specifically talking today about technology jobs. The other thing that's going to be really important for companies in 2024 is retaining talent. So keeping that talent that they worked so hard to attract. It's going to be a focus for employees or employers because they don't want to see the top talent leaving because it's expensive. For every person that you go out and you hire and you attract into the company, it's at least a $50,000 price tag. By the time you find that employee, you train that employee to become up to speed, there's a lot of productivity that is lost, and so it's super important for employers to hold on to that top talent. So going back to the market, there's a lot of factors that influence whether the market is strong or whether it's weak. So it's the economy, it's things like industry trends, supply and demand of the labor force. So as you guys read a lot of articles and you're looking at the news, one thing that they're always talking about is unemployment and the job market, and these are things to keep in front of you so that you know what the competition might be like and what is going on as you might be looking for jobs. Bringing it a little closer to home in terms of technology, what are the jobs that are in really high demand from a technology standpoint? You'll hear about cloud architects, really, really hot job right now. DevOps engineers, security managers, AI leaders, data security analysts. If you think about analytics as a career option, data scientists and data engineers, IT directors and software engineers, all extremely hot careers careers to consider. One example I'll give you is the cybersecurity job outlook. So there's all kinds of articles about job security, and one aspect is cybersecurity will have 32% growth from 2022 to 2032. So in that 10-year span, the demand for this profession is going to significantly increase. And you don't have to be a technology wizard to have a career in cybersecurity. So this is a hot field for you guys to consider, because every single day companies are being hacked and information is getting leaked. And companies now more than ever need to protect the data and the information that they have in companies. And you can do it. This is a career that is in high demand and is varied in skill set, but very, very wanted and needed in companies. So the video that we showed at the beginning of the conference today was super, super interesting to me. Damola and I were talking about when the robots were walking, and maybe there's a special name for the robots, the dogs. We see those in our Ford facilities. So all of this technology, whether you're familiar with the auto industry or not, exists in various companies. And that's an example when you look at that video of if you walked in some of our Ford facilities, specifically manufacturing, that would be a piece of technology that you would see. Bringing it a little closer to the rest of Ford Motor Company, maybe like outside of manufacturing, I want to talk to you and give you a couple of examples of how we have embraced technology at Ford and the ways that we're leveraging it in ways that we never have before. So, for example, Ford now has an AI advancement center. We're working on several different AI image generation tools to design vehicles, to address quality issues, because if you know the headlines, you know we have work to do in quality. And that's okay. We're getting there and we're on it. And it's super important for us to be able to deliver quality vehicles for our customers. And the third thing that the AI image generation tools are helping us with is creating marketing copy. So let me give you a couple of examples of what all these things mean. So we can develop vehicles by using AI generated images and coupling it with our data. And it helps us to create models. So the AI is going to help us design the products so that we can put them in front of customers and say, what do you think this looks like? Is this something that you would consider buying? And so that's one way that we're leveraging the data and the AI models to do powerful things. The other way that we're using it is for vehicle safety. So today, or maybe not today, but in years past, if we want to train the cameras that we have in the front of our vehicles or in the back of our vehicles to recognize hazards, we would have to go to physical places. We would have to create that potential conflict, whether it's out on gravel roads or other places that are somewhat like dangerous for like vehicles and consumers, and we would have to like develop the area, and we would have to take images and then train the vehicles to recognize the images. With AI, we don't have to go to those physical locations and create those scenarios. We can use AI to do it. So we're saving a lot of time because we don't have to go to those physical places, and we're saving money because we don't have to go to those physical places. One other thing that we did recently at Ford is, you guys are probably all familiar with ChatGPT and the power of that tool, because it has a lot of human-like capabilities to like help people with writing. We know that some schools are like not super big on ChatGPT because they want for students to be writing. and not utilizing ChatGPT. But we couldn't just adopt ChatGPT into our Ford environment because we have a lot of data and information that we need to keep secure. So our organizations had to jump into action, and we had to create our own environment so that our employees can use the power of a ChatGPT-like tool, but we can also protect our data and our environment at the same time. So today, if I want to create a job description, I can go into the Ford environment, and again, a tool that looks just like ChatGPT, and I can type in and create a job description. So that's one of the ways that today my job is easier because I'm leveraging that tool and that technology. I also use it if I'm writing a piece of communication that needs to go out to employees, and I'm not sure maybe if it's clear or not, and I can like put my draft in there, and I can tell the tool, make this more clear, or summarize this information, and boom, it does the job for me. So it doesn't replace the work that I have to do, but it enhances the work that I have to do. And that is a huge time saver for me, and it also helps me create a better product. So those are just like a couple of the ways that we're embracing technology and AI at Ford Motor Company. I'm not the expert. I wish we had some experts here that could probably talk a little more intelligent, but just wanted to give you guys at least a flavor. So the bulk of what I want to talk to you guys about today is how do you plan for a career in technology? What are the skills and capabilities that you need to be successful in this space? So if you're planning a career in technology, the first thing I would tell you guys to do is research schools. What schools have good technology programs? You can go online and you can type in who has the best computer science programs in the United States, or wherever it is that you want to go to school and pursue an education. And know what it takes to get admitted into those schools. Do you have to submit an ACT score? Do you have to submit an SAT score? What is the GPA that they're looking for? How well-rounded should you be to be considered to be included in the school and admitted into the school? Do you need to have work experience? Should you be a part of clubs or organizations or sports? How do you give yourself that competitiveness so that when you go to apply, you are selected? And keep in mind that education is extremely important and extremely competitive. And on everybody's minds also is, how do I pay for this? Because it's expensive. I mean, we heard the $80,000 price tag. My daughter right now, she goes to Michigan State. I'm headed up there after we conclude today. And I'll just be honest, so I'm thinking like about 30 grand per year by the time you think about tuition, housing, food, books, all of those like extra things that add up. But there are scholarships, and there are grants, and there are loans. So don't let the price tag scare you. There's a lot of ways that people scrimp and scrape to be able to give themselves this education that truly gives you an upper hand in being able to provide for yourself and for your families. So technology is changing extremely fast. So it never stops at a degree. I don't want you guys to think I go to 4 years of college and my education ends there. That's when you think about what are the certifications that you can get. A lot of companies like Ford, they offer a lot of continuous learning. There's companies that we bring in so that we can get certifications. There's online platforms like Coursera that we tap into because they have a lot of technology offerings. The idea and the way to be successful is to continuously learn. And I know for a lot of our young people that sounds extremely daunting because we may just be thinking about how many more years do we have to go to school so we could put away the books and stop this madness. It never ends. So if you want to be successful, it never ends. You have to be continuously learning and keeping yourself relevant. So not only do you have to build deep technology awareness and skills and capabilities, but I also want to talk to you about something else that's extremely important and not always talked about. Soft skills or power skills or leadership skills. When you read articles, it's all the same. I prefer to call them power skills because what I think is it differentiates you against a lot of the competition. And what I mean by that is, do you have humility? Do you have courage? Do you have integrity? And integrity means, are you doing the right thing regardless if people are looking or they're not? Do you have empathy for your coworkers and for different scenarios that come up in people's lives? How can you be friends to them and encourage them because they're working alongside of you, and it's important to have those relationships with people that you work with every day? How do you prioritize? So our to-do lists when you work in corporate America are like 50 things deep. How do you decide what are the things that you need to work on first so that you're not completely overwhelmed? You have to prioritize in order to start making progress against a list of things to do. How do you collaborate? What I mean by collaborate is, can you be a good team member? Don't take credit for things that you are not responsible for. And when you're on a team, the whole team gets credit. So share in the success. Part of collaborating is also being curious and learning, opening up your mind to learn from other people. And then also, I would say, seeking diverse perspectives. So when you work in a company, there are people from all over the world. There are different genders. There are different races. We can learn from each and every one of the people who are different than us. So really embracing, what can I learn from this person who lived in Australia? What can I learn from this person who has had job experience in India? Just really opening up your mind and learning from different perspectives is super important when you're working on a team in places like Ford Motor Company. So how do you know, even as a kid, if technology is something that you're interested in? There's a lot of online resources, even at the elementary age. There's an online resource called hourofcode.com. You can put your elementary student on this online platform and they can see if it's something that's interesting to them. Are they entertained? Do they have the skills? So these are ways that you can even kind of test at a young age if this is something that you might want to go to and save the $80,000 mistake. Another one is Girls Who Code. So this is one that Ford actually sponsors and helps with. So there's lots of different online resources. I saw as well, if just kind of bringing it up to the adult level a little bit. I was online this morning. I saw that Michigan State has a 24-week boot camp on cybersecurity. So the options are endless. If you're interested in computer vision, there's something called Teachable Machine with google.com. So again, lots of online resources. So what are companies' expectations? So let's imagine you go to school, you get a job, and then you're like, how do I stay successful in my career? Companies have expectations of technology talent. One of them is have a breadth of experiences and have a breadth of knowledge of different types of technology domains. Also, have a depth of knowledge, so become a subject matter expert. One thing I would say at Ford is we used to move a lot of people around in the organization because we wanted to give them different experiences so that one day if you're a director or a manager, you'd sit in a lot of places. Now I think the tide is turning. And now I think that we need more depth. So we're not moving people around as much, but we're really appreciating them being subject matter experts in one technology, for example. And we have a lot of different careers where you could either go the breadth route and maybe become a manager, or you can become a subject matter expert and maybe you're like a technical fellow, for example, because you have a deep knowledge of a certain technology. I also talked about the certifications. So companies' expectation to continue to be successful is continuous learning, seeking feedback. So this is super important. People will give you feedback in your careers, sometimes good, sometimes not good. Take the feedback and do something with it. In most cases, people are delivering it to you because they care about you as a growing employee. So don't shy away from the feedback that you're going to get. It's very similar to like when you're in school and somebody gives you a report card. They're giving you feedback. They're telling you how it is that you're doing on your job or in the classroom. Again, having that mix of technical skills and leadership skills. And then collaboration, being a good team member. So then finally, I'll just kind of wrap up with a little bit of bringing it home on how to be successful. We already talked about the education. Education will open up more doors for you than you can imagine. So if you're contemplating whether or not you want to go get that degree or you want to go to that boot camp or certifications, don't hesitate, do it. It will pay in numbers. So never stop learning. Know what's new in the industry. So, and this is something we haven't talked about. This industry is growing so fast, the technology industry. So keep up to date. Find those couple of publications that you can always go to get information about what's changing. I mentioned CIO earlier. There are like 10, 15, 20 other publications that you can read to stay relevant on what's happening in the technology industry. Podcasts. If you don't like to read, there's podcasts that you could watch. There's conferences that you can go to. Another thing, expand your network. So meet people and stay in contact with people that can help you and that you can learn from. And then last, I would say benchmarking. So benchmarking is really important and something that we expect that every Ford employee does. Leverage that network and benchmark. That means learn from somebody else. Learn other processes that companies are using that you can bring back to your company. Or learn some skills that are being taught that you can consider bringing back to your company. So again, it's all about learning in various ways and putting yourself out there to develop relationships and then leverage them when you need to. So that's all I have for today. And I really want to thank the team for including me in the conference. I wish you all the best in your education and in your career. And everybody have a blessed Saturday and enjoy the rest of the weekend. For those who are local, go Detroit Lions, and let's do this.
So we have a couple of, sorry about that. Yes, we have some questions online. Please, for those in the room as well, if you need to ask questions, please go to slido.com and use the code CARRIERS24 to ask your questions. We do have some, so we'll just show a couple of them so that we can at least take them. We have 15 minutes for those questions. We're going to project them here so that Carla can help us with some of those questions. Just listening to the presentation, one of the things that really jumped out at me was those soft skills, or the power skills you call them. Having worked for a couple of Fortune 500 companies, those are skills that people really highlight or that can help in your career. It's not just staring at that code as a software engineer, just doing things, but how you also collaborate with people. So that being said, I think we'll have our first question here.
Yeah, so what are good ways to stay in touch with your network? I would say that there's probably no one-size-fits-all answer. So one way might be LinkedIn. So I don't know if you guys know what LinkedIn, but it's kind of like the professional sister to like Facebook. So LinkedIn is a place where a lot of people go in, you create a profile, you create a resume, and you know, you would put things in there like, where did I go to school? What job do I have? And then you're able to like invite others to follow you or make connection. So that's one of the ways I stay in touch with my network. And a lot of like folks post in there like, hey, I got a new job at so-and-so. So for example, like in HR, we may have people who I worked with at Ford Motor Company before, maybe they've decided to move on and do something different in life. And so I'm able to follow their careers, reach out to them. Maybe they work in an industry that all of a sudden I have like an aspiration to go and work in, or maybe they have just like come off of a conference that, hey, I didn't have a chance to attend, but I want to like learn what was the conference all about. Or maybe they're talking about a new performance management system that they just launched, and we're going to be doing that at Ford, so I want to reach out and I want to learn from them. So there's a lot of online tools. Depending on how close you are with your network, you might have these people in your like cell phone, and you can just call them and say, hey, what are you doing in your company about performance management? Or what kinds of classes are you offering your software engineers? Or what online platform are you using? Or what training are you giving like your rising talent? Because we want to recognize and give intentional learning to our employees. And so what are you doing over in your company? So it's all about asking questions, and it takes time and effort, I'm not going to lie. So keeping up with your network can be, I don't want to say a full-time job, but it's definitely, again, another way to continue like learning through other people. So super important.
Thank you. This will be our next question.
Any questions from the young folks on college?
Yeah, we're going to have opportunity to also ask questions from people in-house. So maybe we'll do it this way. I'll get one question online and then another one from in person. Okay?
Thank you. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
I was hoping you could actually speak on the experiential learning opportunities that are available at Ford for people that might be considering, might be in school for tech. So while they're studying, opportunities that might exist within Ford for them to actually get hands-on experience to figure out where they want to hang their hats when they graduate. And I asked that because you mentioned that you're pivoting away from, I forget the specific terminology that you employed, but you're pivoting away from branching and having people specialize and become, you know, deep thinkers in just one particular field. A young person might be a little bit scared because they don't really know where they want to hang their hats, and you know, you don't want to pick wrong at the early stage of your career. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked it, because we have at Ford Motor Company, regardless of where you want to work and regardless of what degree that you're working on, we have a lot of internship programs. We have internship programs for high school students. We have internship programs for folks that are 1 to 2 years in college, maybe have very minimal professional skills or very minimal, you know, formal education under their belt, but we know that we want to get them exposed to corporate America and start building their skill set so that they can be competitive. We're doing a program this year in information technology with DAPSET. It's a Detroit area organization that helps young people get ready for their careers. So we're going to take on about 30 interns at Ford Motor Company from like June until August. We're going to teach them professional skills, and we're going to give them a chance to get some hands-on experience with some of the things that we do in IT. College internships. So for those who are maybe like at their junior status, we offer extremely competitive pay for folks that are in that stage of their education, bringing them in again for 8, 10, 12 weeks in the summer, giving them real assignments, not like years ago where it was, hey, can you proofread this document, or can you go get the team coffee? This is a real like project and assignment that folks work on. And in IT, like historically, we bring in about 100 every single summer. I'm specifically talking about technology today, but those same experiences with internships exist in places like marketing and human resources and finance. So if that happens to be something that like you change your mind and technology is not a place you're going to go, then those examples exist there. One more thing I'll add, Ford College Graduate Program. So this is a program for people who have just graduated, and we want to give them entry-level experience. In IT specifically, we have a 3-year program and people rotate. So you might come in and you might do like software engineering for like a marketing customer your first year, and then maybe your second year, you're in cybersecurity. So it's a rotational program that helps you decide, hey, what is it that I even like to do? Do I prefer the software engineering route? Do I want to be a cybersecurity professional? So there's lots of ways that we are giving exposure and early career development for folks that are not quite sure what they want to do, but they need to obviously start making money.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that response. I can tell you for sure, I'm an alumni of the Ford College Graduate Program. One of the things it taught me, because it gives you 3 different rotations in 3 different spaces, is I was able to know what I did not want to do. So that's another perspective to look at it from. So we take another question from the online viewers.
Yeah, I saw one question kind of pop up. How long did it take me to get to where I am? So I've been working for Ford for 25 years. I'll have 26 years in July. And I've been in this specific role for about 5 years. So if you're looking at like, how long did it take me to become a director at Ford? The answer was 20 years. I can tell you that I have a colleague who worked for me 2 levels below me in 2020. He's now my level today. So his trajectory was a lot less than mine. His is probably like in the 10 to 15 year range. Mine was in the 20-year range. So some of it just depends on how healthy is our industry. Can we afford to promote people? How good is the person? You know, have we had a lot of like openings? Are we expanding our business? So it's not to say that like one director or employee is better than the other, but sometimes it just depends on how healthy the business is and can we afford to give people promotions.
Thank you for that. I think we'll take one more question online, and then we can also ask another question from the audience.
Okay, so this one says, working with Ford, what part of tech can you advise to specialize in to work with an automotive company? I would say that like what we need the most right now is software engineers. So the opportunity for software engineers is everywhere. It's software engineering for our products. So I talked a lot about IT today, but there are also software engineer opportunities all across Ford. We have a lot of technology that drives our vehicles now. Everything is electronic, as you guys know. So there's a lot of things that, like in the Model E organization, which is our organization that is designing and manufacturing electronic vehicles, so like our Mach-E and our Lightning truck at Ford, there's opportunities all over the place for technology, very high number of opportunities for software engineers and other like digital careers. And then like what we do in IT is we create the technology solutions for the business. So for example, and I'll just like give you an example that I think everybody can kind of wrap their head around: payroll. So what is the system that we have that gives you a paycheck every week? So right now we're working on a new payroll solution because our solution that we've had in place is probably like 30 plus years old. We need to upgrade that system. So this is something that technology employees are working on with a vendor to bring a new payroll system to Ford. So again, there are like so many examples that I can continue to give. The technology careers are everywhere in a company like Ford, and obviously in lots of other different industries as well.
Thank you. We have another question from the audience.
Okay, so what advice would you give somebody that recently moved from a marketing major to business, technology information system in business, who has passion for healthcare too? So what advice can you give somebody, because I'm somebody that's interested in integration in technology and everything, so and I want to go into the healthcare industry, so what advice would you give me to merge those two together?
Yeah, so one thing I would advise is seeing if you can find folks who have careers in that space right now, so you can learn what do they do every day, and so you can think about how you would market yourself to a company that is going to be looking for the specific talent that you have and you want to bring. So I would do my homework on that. And then I would leverage, again, all sorts of like job posting boards. I was on Indeed for like over an hour and 15 minutes one night this week looking for internships for my daughter, so that I can send them and she can apply. So looking at Indeed or LinkedIn to see like what kind of jobs out there might exist that can blend the experience that you have in marketing with the technology direction that you want to go into. So those are just two things kind of off the top of my head is, again, find a network that you can learn from, and then use those job boards to see what you can find that blends those unique experiences.
Awesome, thank you. I think we have another question from our online viewers.
Visas, yes. That is one of the #1 questions at Ford Motor Company. I am not an expert on visas, but what I will tell you is depending on where we're hiring is depending on where we are sponsoring. So in certain parts of the organization, we do more sponsoring than others, and it really depends on the role. And sometimes it depends on like the government flavor because there are a lot of like governmental nuances with sponsoring, and it's expensive for companies. One of the ways that when we are in a situation or in a time with our business, again, depending on how healthy it is, let's say we're not sponsoring, a lot of times agencies are sponsoring, and then we hire agency resources to do Ford jobs. So what that means is you would actually work for another company, but you would be assigned to Ford, and you would work on Ford work and Ford projects. And a lot of times they will like sponsor, and then many times we actually convert those agency resources and bring them onto the Ford payroll. So that might be another avenue if, again, we're in a time or age where Ford is not sponsoring, but maybe an agency is a route that you could consider.
Thank you. Do we have any questions in person? Okay, we have a question here.
So I have a quick question. So you mentioned a degree. I'm going to pick cybersecurity. So you mentioned you can either get a degree or you can get a certificate. And I know there are like certificates out there for cybersecurity and you can go ahead and apply. So I guess my question is, when hiring, what outweighs a degree from a certificate? Is it just the people skills, the experience? Like, what are the things you're looking at if someone has a certificate instead of a degree?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that because I meant to talk a little bit more about earlier, what is the weight of like a degree versus a certificate? My advice is get the degree and then get certificates. But it depends on the company that you're looking at to work at. So there are companies that certifications are fine and you can get yourself an entry-level position, but a degree always pays more and a degree always opens up more doors for you. So at Ford right now, and historically I would say, we don't always open up our doors to like folks that just have certificates. We're still, I don't want to say we're old-fashioned, but like we still hold true to like the importance of a college degree. So in a lot of cases, if somebody comes to us and they're like, well, I have all these certifications, but I don't have a degree, we would say, we applaud you for the certifications, but we're not going to consider you because you don't have a degree. And again, I can't speak for other like companies because some other companies might value experience and certifications more, but today that's our stance. Sometimes our supervisors and managers challenge us because there's some great talent who just never had an opportunity to get the degree, but they have lots of experience and they have certifications. Once in a while, we'll make an exception and we will lean toward the experience that somebody can bring and the expertise without the degree. But I would still say most of our careers would require a degree.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. We're going to take two more questions, one in-house and one from our online viewers. I think we have the last one from our online viewers here.
So advice for people who are starting a career in tech later in life, where should they begin? There's no magic age to start a career in technology. And once in a while, we hire people in their 50s and early 60s, to be honest with you. So there is like no magic age in order to like get your foot in the door, particularly for a technology career. And where should you begin? I would say entry-level positions. If it's a career change that you've made later in life, you still need to get that entry-level position, and then you start building your experience and you build your resume from there.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any questions in-house? All right, we have one here.
I wanted to ask in regards to are there negative impact you've seen in the industries that AI has so far affected the technology career?
Yeah, so there's lots of articles every single day. I think some folks are more excited than others about AI and technology, worrying about how will it change us as human beings. How will it change the job market, and will it take jobs that people have today and replace people with robots and things like that? So I would say, you know, and I'll speak to Ford. Have people lost their jobs because we have better technology? I would say no. the technology right now is helping us to improve processes. It's helping us to move faster. It's eliminating potential human mistakes. So we're using it particularly a lot in manufacturing to like identify quality issues so that we don't end up with customers with paint problems and other types of problems with their vehicles. So might it happen in years to come that we actually have like technology and robots taking over people's jobs? Sure. And there's probably examples today. But in our particular industry and what we're seeing, we haven't seen that to be the case. But I'm sure as like we have people representing all different industries in the audience, you can maybe think of a couple of jobs that have gone away because technology has replaced them.
All right, thank you very much, Carla. Come on, let's give her a round of applause. When we started out with the word cloud, there were certain kind of words. One was whether you're going to wow them, and I think you did absolutely that. So, thank you. Very wonderful questions.
Thanks, and again, everybody have a blessed weekend, and thank you for having me today. Best of luck to everybody.
All right, moving along, we're going to have a short break in preparation for our next session. It's a 5-10-minute break. And even for our online viewers, please stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be coming back in another 5 to 10 minutes to continue with our session. We have 2 more power-packed sessions. If you've been wowed by what you've seen, I can tell you there's still so much more coming from where that came from. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Going on in the program. All right, looks like we have everyone back now. Again, for folks that are online, thank you very much for staying online. We're continuing this program. And as we continue on this journey, I would like to introduce our next speaker, David Stokes Green. David joined Liberty Mutual in August of 2016 from IBM, where he was a management consultant within their strategy and operations practice. At Liberty, David has worked within claims, emerging technology, and now leads enterprise data science accelerate programs. His team's focus aims to support data science best practice, cutting-edge data science, things like generative AI, responsible AI, and enterprise data science tools. He received his undergraduate degree in economics from Union College and his MBA from The Ohio State University. During his free time, he enjoys skiing, hiking, and spending time with his 2 sons, daughter, wife, and his dog. He'll be leading us today on the topic of artificial intelligence. So please join me as I welcome David Stokes Green. David will be joining us online right now. All right, looks like we have David. Awesome. David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, thank you so much, folks, for having me. When Olu asked if I would participate in these sessions, I was very excited to do so. So, as very well introduced, my name is David Stokes Green. I lead enterprise data science acceleration within Liberty Mutual. I'm within a group called the Office of Data Science. And as I thought through what I wanted to talk about today, I basically wanted to, when folks think of data science and AI, they, it's sort of mystic. And so I think what my goal here was to discuss and bring some clarity of the field. I think that I was watching that video beforehand. I thought that video was really good from the sense of talking about rapid change. I know that there is, that the whole aspect of sort of career and fear of this change and potential jobs being replaced and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the best things to do is to really educate yourself of this space. And so my goal for today is to just really high level walk through data science and AI. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the nuances that we think about at Liberty Mutual as we think about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about what are some resources and what are some things that folks can do as they want to be more interested in this space, in this career, and then really what I'm hoping for is sort of some dialogue and questions. So please ask many questions as I progress through this. So I guess to start, one of the things that I want to highlight, and this slide's a little bit old, right? So AI is in the news everywhere, right? Anything from amazing sort of findings in regards how AI can help look at stuff like X-rays or find really nice detections of medical issues, to you saw the video of General Dynamics with a robot doing a flip and so forth. Now, if you're interested in investing, basically any stock out there that says AI in a news release or an investor relations call, that stock goes wild, right? And so I think one thing to call out here is AI and analytics are in the news everywhere, right? So I think those that are interested in it, you grab a newspaper and read, and you'll find, and so forth. And I only see that continuing to accelerate as we progress. If you think about your day-to-day life, not everyone realizes, but data science and AI is impacting you in many of the things you do. From the moment you wake up and you ask Alexa, hey, what's the weather outside, right? Alexa is hearing what you're saying, breaking that down. The models are basically finding the correct information and sharing that back. From going to the point where you turn on your computer and you have Outlook that has flagged 12 messages that are specifically telling you a certain thing, to, I've got my watch, right? My watch tracks how many steps I take, tells me what my heart rate is, and so forth. And then even to the point where you've got something like Nest, where you can basically tell it to lower temperature and schedule it in a couple of time. Or you're able to take your TV remote and say, hey, I would like to watch, Disney ABC, right? And it instantly takes you to that show. So I think if you're aware of data science and AI, great. If you're not, just step back and think that a lot of what you are interacting with your technology and so forth is leveraging data science and AI in today's world. And I only see that continuing to grow as we progress. Now, what is data science and what is AI, right? And when you hear AI, you'll hear artificial intelligence, you'll hear machine learning, you'll hear deep learning. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? And so the next couple slides are going to sort of dig into these a bit. And again, for those, if you're already aware of it, sorry if this is too high level, right? But you think of AI really as the science of creating and engineering intelligent machines that can do more human-like things. Now, within AI, there's subsets. So there's machine learning and there's deep learning, and we'll dive into those a little bit further as we progress. So as I said before, what really drives these models is data, right? The more data that you have and the more that you can put into these models, the smarter they get. Some examples of AI are things like being able to read. So there's something called computer vision. It's a type of technique that enables you to basically send something a picture. It's able to see it, things that you can see, you can send text, and it's able to take it from a natural language processing perspective, and it enables you to detect patterns. Now, that's sort of the overarching umbrella of AI. Within AI, you've got machine learning, which is a subset, which really is using statistical methods to enable a computer to learn from data rather than a program, right? So instead of saying, do ABC and sort of making it rules-based, you can give it data and it learns. And what this does is it gives you really interesting ways that you can solve problems that you couldn't necessarily solve in the past, right? So, for example, you can have, you can give a bunch of data and try to say, solve a problem, and it will help you find that optimal path to solving that problem. It helps to teach some interesting nuances between associations, right? So, for example, a lot of people talk about this. Give a picture of a cat, you give a picture of a dog. The next picture, you basically teach it. The next time you give a picture, you don't tell it what it is. From the learnings before, it's able to say that's a cat or a dog and so forth. And then this whole aspect of needle in a haystack, right? So what's really powerful about machine learning is that it gives you the ability to do things that either would take a really, really, really long time to do because it's able to do it quickly and you would need many people doing it. And in some cases, things that, the likelihood of being able to solve a problem you couldn't do it before, and now you can with machine learning. Now, go one step further, you then have deep learning, right? And this is, I think, where there's a ton of power, right? So it's really around the idea of you're creating what we call these neural networks to learn from the data. And this is where it's really getting into sort of that unstructured data. When I say unstructured, things that are just binary numbers, that's structured. Things that are unstructured are stuff like images, like text or voice, sound, right? And you're essentially able to take those unstructured insights, which there's a ton of data out there in this form, and be able to understand it. And so again, understanding things. So if I were to step back and talk about a couple of examples that we're doing stuff like this within Liberty Mutual. So images. We have, within insurance, one of the top things that we want to do is be able to understand a risk. We ask customers or potential customers a lot of questions to understand their risks. One of the things that we can do with properties is if we're able to get images of someone's house, we could then take that picture and use computer vision models, right? And they're using deep learning to essentially be able to identify risks. Does that house have a pool? Does that house have a sunroof? Does that house have 12 cars parked in their garage? 12 cars parked in their yard and they're kind of not treating it very well. And there's similar mediums that we can do these types of problems where that first one is using pictures. Let's come to another example where it's something like text, right? If I want to understand what a business that's trying to get insurance with us is doing, we are able to essentially have our models go out to companies' websites, take the data off their websites that explain what they do, look at Yelp reviews, look at a number of different things, take all that text, pull it together, do synthesis to understand what kind of business are they doing things that we don't necessarily want to assure, what's the customer sentiment for this place, and this is all things that historically we would have to ask and rely on the information we're getting, and in some cases we weren't even able to get at this type of information that we now can using data science, AI, machine learning, and deep learning. Now, one of the things that I just couldn't do this presentation without talking about is going into generative AI. If we take a step back, AI has been around for a long time. It took really relatively skilled, from a technical perspective to be able to build and interact with these models. Now with generative AI, which essentially you're having these models behind the scenes that are doing things, but they're now generating content. What they have done is essentially, I'm almost thinking of it as democratizing AI, right? So I'm hopefully, or I would assume most folks in the room or on the call know about ChatGPT, right? And so I no longer need to be a data scientist or a coder to interact with this stuff. And essentially what it's doing is it's being able to generate information based off of content that I give in a way that I essentially can pass things in as anyone, right? I can send it text, I can ask it a question, and then essentially what it does is it comes back and gives me a response, or I can tell it to write an email for me. And it's pretty powerful. So a couple of questions, examples we have in here is you can ask it, what's the capital of Massachusetts? Would you like to file, theoretically a claim? Are you free tomorrow? And it can come back with answers. Now, when you think of these models behind the scenes, it's really made up of two things. One, which is what we are calling sort of a large language model, right? It's more in that deep learning space where these models have been around for a long time, and they've been in production for a really long time. These models are getting bigger. As they get bigger and they're trained on more and more and more data, they're just getting that much better at understanding incoming questions and giving really strong results. Now, on the flip side, there's this generative aspect. This is the exciting component. And essentially, this is where you are generating content, right? So before, I could send data to a large language model and I could basically get a synthesis back and so forth. Not only are we getting simple responses back, now we can say, generate and create a picture, create an email, create a document, and so forth. And so I would say that this space with generative AI, it's really accelerating a lot of excitement and buzz in the AI space. So I pulled out a couple examples when we say generative AI of some of the applications, just to make it real for folks. So we talked a little bit about this content generation, right? So this is basically, asking it to create in simple form an email or so forth. On the top right, this is around classification, right? So this is basically saying, I want to be able to send information into these models, I wanted to be able to predict and say it's certain options, right? So again, if we're thinking about within the claim space, one of the things that we want to know about is how severe is that claim, right? And so we can ingest a lot of information from the claim into these models and basically say, hey, can you share with us, is this classified as a simple, easier claim versus a really hard claim? There's this aspect of extraction and question and answer. So this is essentially saying, hey, I want you to read all these emails, and I want you to, from the emails, pull out the person's name every time, or pull out the date every time. That's that extraction. And then the question and answer perspective could be something where you feed it a bunch of information, and you could say, for example, let's just say I have taken notes for 2 years, and I want to feed all my notes in to a generative AI model. I can say, tell me how many times over the past 2 years in my notes did I say, this was very hard, and it would come back and give you an answer. And then the final one in here is around summarization, which I think a lot of people know you can send a lot of text and say summarize text and give you back a response. So, and I just out of curiosity, if there's questions, all right, I'll keep going. I guess we'll have questions at the end. So, as we think about data science and AI, I think it's really helpful for folks just at a high level to understand the life cycle that these models go through in building and enabling these. It's really, and you can see it in many different places, and there's a couple different ways of thinking about it, but we at Liberty Mutual think of it sort of in sort of these 7 phases, right? There's phase 1, which is understanding the business problem. What are you trying to solve? There's the whole aspect of you've got to go out and find your data and clean your data and explore your data. You are then going in what's called feature engineering, where you're basically continuing to refine that data and find features out of it. You build your models, and then you deploy your models, right? And so this is what I would say from data science. It's an AI, it's an iterative fashion, right? So you might find that, hey, when we've got to step 5, we actually are realizing there's some new interesting things with the business problem that we're solving. So I got to jump back to 1 or 7 to 3. It's just it's not a linear process, but it's an iterative process. And when we think about who is involved creating these models, there are folks that are across. It basically, I think it's a good way to think of it as it takes a village, right? So you have data scientists, those that are building the models. You have data engineers who are helping you find the data and understand the data. You have folks that we call an ML engineer, a machine learning engineer, and their role is to really help take a built model and get it into production and support it. We then have folks that are called data science product managers, and essentially a data science product manager's role is to be able to help work with the business to understand what are the problems we're trying to solve and what exactly are the types of models that we can do in working with the teams to create roadmaps and so forth. And then also there are for these models to generate value, they need to go into end systems that folks can interact with. So there are these application engineers that are receiving the models that need to be in collaboration with this process. And so as we think, one of the things we're thinking about at Liberty, as we want to be building these really, efficiently and effectively, we want these people working together. And so I would say for those in the audience or on the phone, as you're thinking about data science and AI, you don't need to be a data scientist to work in this field, right? There's many different personas. And so I think that's just something to keep in mind. Hold on, keep going. So, and just, I figured put this in here at a little bit of a higher level. This is a lot of what my team does. So as we think about data science and AI at an enterprise perspective, we sort of have, there's a number of things that we essentially think through. We want to make sure within Liberty, we have hundreds of data scientists. We've got multi-hundreds of engineers and data engineers in the space. So I would say there's over 1,000 people at the company that are within that sort of group of people that support data science models. And our role within the Office of Data Science and my team and the enterprise acceleration work that we do is we help to drive coordination across, right? So around program management, better understanding what all the different teams are doing to help drive reuse. our team and some of my peers are thinking about talent. What is the talent that we need to support these models? My team thinks about what are the tools? Can we build these tools once and share with everybody? What are those practices that folks should be following? The best practices that drive consistency within our company, and stuff like how do we trust that the models we're building are being built in a way that we believe and that are good, right? And how are we doing it fast? There's this whole area of responsible AI, and I have a slide that calls out some of the risks that AI poses. And how do we, and we have a team that is really focused on this. How are we thinking about responsibly delivering our insights in a way that's not going to harm our customers, not going to harm our employees, and not going to harm our company brand? And then we have this final pillar, which is around enablement, right? And so this is essentially, how are we bringing right-minded people together where there's a common problem that would impact many teams, and essentially build those and go after those in a unified way. So I know folks have heard a lot of excitement around data science and AI. There's definitely risks associated with it, right? Now, we talked a little bit, that last video talked a little bit about the risk and the concern of sort of the negative social impacts, the third one around automating away jobs and anxiety and so forth. But there's others, right? As we run through them, each of them are very, very important and things that we think through. So the first one being bias. These models are trained on the data that they get. If that data by chance doesn't have a good representation of the area that we want to get insights, these models unintentionally might be trained to be biased to a certain thing, right? And those biases could cause harm, unintended harm. So how do we make sure that we are looking at the way we're building our models to reduce that risk of bias and make sure that we are ensuring that they're ethical and fair? There's this aspect of lack of control and accountability. You might hear that these AI models are like a black box. It's very hard to explain what exactly or why or how a decision was made. So there's a lot of research and work that we're doing, and everyone is doing, to better understand these models so that we can explain, hey, decision A was made, this is why. If someone were to ask, and it's good for us to be able to know why so that we can feel comfortable they're not biased and so forth, but we should also be able to answer to our customers. Folks already talked about the negative social impacts on jobs and so forth. And I think the biggest thing from my perspective is, this is why I think it's really important to learn about this stuff, think about the skill set and so forth. There will be scenarios where certain roles will be replaced, but there's also going to be lots of opportunity too as well that comes out of this. And so I think folks taking the opportunity to learn about data science and AI, to think about how, as they are either in their careers now or looking at their careers for the future, can be, learn up in this space, because I actually do think on the flip side, a lot of opportunity will be created out of it. And then the final one is this idea of sort of what folks call an AI winner, right? So essentially, growth has happened so fast. There, sort of like Moore's law, right? Things are getting way, way faster as it's progressing. There's eventually this plateauing that will happen, and there's concerns around that diminishing return and what impact that will have. So Andrew Ng, he is a sort of founder and CEO of Landing. He's founder and CEO of Coursera, very, very relevant in this space. This is a great quote of his, and he basically says, just as electricity transformed almost everything 100 years ago, we feel like we're in that same revolution, that same transformation around how data science and AI is thinking about sort of transforming the next several years. And the release of generative AI now is also causing a lot of excitement and buzz. Now, for those that are listening, how, if you're thinking to yourself, how can I get more, more awareness of data science and AI, right? And I would basically say there's a number of things. On the left side, I think this is just kind of the approach I take. I read, right? So I would basically say, as I said before, and then it's everywhere. So you can Google it, read a newspaper, just read as much as you can and soak up and learn, understand where is data science and AI being used? What are some of the components that we need to know in order to be able to build these things? And just from that perspective, just read. The second thing is take some opportunities to learn. There's a lot of great either paid or free content out there. On the right side, I've included a number of Coursera courses. I believe folks can take Coursera for free. If you want to get a certification, you do need to pay for it, but I think you can take the courses to actually learn. So Coursera, just those are a couple examples. There's some stuff like LinkedIn Learning. There's a number of books you can go out and read around learning how to do some of the basics, right? And so I would say, there's opportunities, whether it's free or paid, to take some courses on this stuff. YouTube, right? How to code Python, right? I think those are a couple of examples of things that I think would be great. Networking, right? So this right here is a perfect example of a way to sort of learn. Go on LinkedIn, find someone that is working in this space, ping them and say, hey, I'd love to learn more. And you'll notice folks are normally love to sort of talk about the roles and mentor and so forth. Talk to some of your parents' friends that are in this field. So I would just sort of advocate that folks sort of take that learning journey on themselves. I think the final thing that I'm just going to leave for the audience that you sort of has really resonated for me, careers are not a straight line, right? And so basically what I mean by that is whatever field you're in now, whatever field you're currently interested in, whatever field you're studying about in school, if it's not in data science and AI, there's always areas to step back and say to myself, hey, how can data science and AI impact what I'm doing today, right? And sort of going through that exercise and thinking about it is something that can sort of continue to help you learn more about the space. I think the other thing to call out is you might hear like, hey, the perfect background for this is ABC. I think personally for myself, I'm a perfect example of where don't let that get in the way, right? So I started off working in sales, right? I then went and I worked in claims. I started doing some stuff with emerging technology. Now I'm very much in this data science and AI space. That wasn't a straight line. And so I think as folks are either in their careers or thinking about their careers, just being comfortable with that flexibility and sort of enjoy the ride is something that I figured was worth sharing. So that's what I had. Any questions or discussion, or hopefully folks found value in that.
Thank you very much, David. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
All right, awesome. We do have a ton of questions, and we'll use the Slido platform to also showcase our questions. We're going to make sure you can see those questions and you can speak to them as much as possible.
Yep.
So I'll be displaying some of those questions now. Hopefully you can see them.
Sorry, hold on. I'm just looking at, because I just see my screen right now. Let me just see. Maybe hold on. Sorry.
Okay.
So I am actually not seeing the questions. Is there a way that can we read a couple off?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and read the question. Okay, so the first question we have here is, great presentation. Can you speak on policy for managing AI and its potential dangers? How do we track these negative impacts? Right now, we have no gatekeepers.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's actually something that we are spending a lot of time at Liberty Mutual thinking about. So we have basically stood up a sort of a governance group that we're calling Responsible AI. And I think one thing that's really clear as we think about this policy in this governance space is that there are many risks in this field. So you need folks that have skill set across all of those. So there's data privacy risks. So we have our chief privacy officer involved. There's security risks. So we have our cybersecurity folks. There's data science risks, right? And so that's all inclusive. So essentially what we have done is we have created a program where we are, one, really clearly understanding what are all the risks in the space. Two, based on those risks, we have mitigations that we are following. In simultaneous fashion to that, one of the big things we want to do is really understand what are the business problems that our businesses are going after, and based on those problems, understand the risk level of those problems, and for the highest risk items, we are bringing through our process where we are basically following a governance approach and a protocol and so forth. And so I think as we progress into this, the more sort of rigor that we bring into this, where essentially we want to find that right balance where we do need gatekeepers, but we also don't want to slow down innovation, right? So how do we do what we are calling responsible AI as efficiently and effectively as possible, where it supports all parties, right? Our business folks that want to drive these models forward are supported because they can do it quickly to solve business problems. But then on the governance side, we have the appropriate insight into these models to be able to ask the questions and make sure that there's the right mitigations so that we don't do something like generate bias or harm the company or our employees or our customers. But it's a great question.
One question here. It says, what are some of the challenges in developing AI for someone new in the field?
Yep. So I would say that data is the most important component of a data science or AI model, right? It's basically, you could build the most amazing model, but if you don't have the data behind to support it, or let me back up. If you have the skills to build the most amazing model and you're really, really good at it, if you don't have data to build your models, then you can't really generate. It all starts with data. So I think a challenge point that we think through is how do we make it as easy and efficient as possible for folks to be able to get access to data? And that's a broad everywhere. That's like a very big challenge that the companies that have the most data and the data that you can access are the ones that are winning. I think simultaneously, there's this aspect of governance and risk and controls. So I think that sort of being able to go quickly and effectively, but also in a way that's responsible is huge. So there's a lot of focus now, especially now with regulations. There's some new regulations that are coming out and laws that are coming out to govern this stuff, where it's really, really important that we have the right programs from a governance and responsible AI perspective. And then I would say the last part is getting these models into production. So let's just say, it takes many different parties. And I think that coordination between all those parties and that can be difficult, right? And so if you're not effectively prioritizing together and working together, it could slow things down. And so I think that that's a third sort of area of focus, right? So data, making sure we're doing things responsibly, and then collaboration between the village it takes to get these models to production as efficiently and effectively are sort of three big areas of focus that we're thinking about.
All right, thank you, David. I have another question here. If someone who does not have a background in that field, how do you encourage that person to continue pushing or know when to give up if that's not their field?
Yeah, so that's a tough question, right? I mean, I would say that you can get into this field in many different ways, as I said before. So I would basically urge folks, as you are thinking about, if you're interested in this space, better understand the sort of types of roles within data science and AI, right? So again, you've got the traditional data scientists, which is what everyone thinks about. You've got your data and ML engineers. You've got your product managers and so forth. And I would say, as you learn about those, think about what are the skills that you have? What are the things that excite you? What are the things that you feel you can really bring to the table? And look at those roles. And you'd be surprised, you're likely going to find that there's some role in that space that the skills you have can drive value and that you can do, right? So I basically would say, I would urge folks not to give up, right? Because I think there might be a misperception that I need to be a coding data scientist to be in this field. And that's just not true, right? And again, I'm the perfect example. I'm more business, I'm on the business side. And so the area of that group that I'm part of, I'm more part of the data science product manager, right? And so again, instead of saying give up versus not, I would say, look at the different types of roles, look internally at yourself of what you're interested in. Now, if you do that exercise and you find, hey, out of all these roles, what I'm interested in is none of them, then that's obviously a clear indication of, hey, just because data science and AI is the buzz and it's the shiny thing, maybe it's not for me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I have another question here. It says, how does AI affect the way you think and make decisions in Liberty Mutual?
Yep. So I would say that within Liberty Mutual, again, like as we look at our core business, we are trying to identify risks and be able to mitigate those risks. We are also trying to, as customers have sometimes the most horrible things happening to them, sort of get them back on their feet as quickly as possible, right? Taking care of our policyholders. And so I think that as you look at all the different functions within insurance broadly and within Liberty in particular, data science and AI can actually impact all of it, right? And so essentially what we are saying to ourselves is, what are the spaces within Liberty Mutual across everything that we do where data science and AI can drive positive impact? We're finding that a lot of things that folks historically have done that are much more sort of mundane and very task oriented is where we can come in for some sweet spots. We're finding that especially as it's advancing with generative AI and these large language models, we can get some really sophisticated results out of things. But I think at Liberty, one of the things that we really stand by is that our employees have extremely sort of that knowledge, that sort of subject matter expertise. So really our thought is, as we are trying to accelerate our be more effective at what we do, it's really how do you take these insights we're getting from data science and AI and pair them up with our really smart adjusters and field managers and folks that are working on sales and all the different things, and how do we bring them together so that together they are more effective at doing the best they can in their job. So I basically would say we are looking at how we can leverage data science and AI across all of our business. We are looking at how can we basically make our amazing employees even more efficient and effective at their roles, leveraging these tools and techniques. And that's all so that end of day, we can take care of our customers in need, as they have a claim or dealing with a tornado. How can we really help them get back on their feet as fast as possible?
Awesome. Thank you very much. I have one more question for you. Let's see. Question is good. Okay. In terms of going into AI or machine learning, I'm aware it's a very broad subject. How do you go about narrowing it down to a career path that suits you? Yeah,
great question. That's sort of similar to sort of the second to last slide I had and the last comment I made, right? So again, I basically would say it is very broad, right? I basically would say take the opportunity to learn, right? Learn more about the field, learn more about the individual, the roles within it and so forth. I sent a bunch of stuff around Coursera. Coursera is and I'll talk to Olu. I can share whether the slides or the links or stuff so that he can share it out with everybody. I would highly suggest, if you're interested in this, clicking on some of those learnings and taking some of the learnings, right? And so, I think the more that you, if you're interested in this field, the more that you try to learn about it through sort of self-paced learning and talking to people, the more that you find folks that are in the field that you can talk to and that can help mentor you and guide you through it. And I would basically just say, take time to go through these items. You're right, it is very broad. But I think as you start to look at it and think about it, as you're learning more, it will help you hone in, as you're thinking about it.
All right. Thank you so much, David, for this session. I think that's all the question we have. We're glad that you were able to give us some insights into AI, machine learning. For a lot of people, I do know that sometimes it can feel daunting when you just hear AI and so many things it can do. But just being able to narrow it down, see where you can start from, right? It's very critical. So thank you again for this session. Of course. Yes. Can we all give David a round of applause?
Yeah, and thank you very much for having me. It was great, great to participate. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So we'll leave you to have the rest of your day.
All right, David. Bye now.
All right, so going on in our session, I'll give us a 5-minute break, just a bathroom break, and then we'll come back for our concluding session. Please stay tuned. The next session is going to encompass so many things about cybersecurity and some of the things that Carla talked about in the first session. So please, we'll be back for our online folks. Again, thank you so much for still being in the session with us. We'll be back in 5 minutes for our final and concluding session. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. And for those just joining us, we're going into our third session for the day in our career conference. So moving along, I want to introduce our next speaker. It's actually interesting. The previous speaker's name is David, and the next speaker's name is Solomon, which you might think it's a coincidence, but I think things are orchestrated in certain ways. Well, this next session will be looking at cybersecurity, and it's a privilege for me to introduce Solomon Azaka. Solomon is a seasoned professional currently contributing to the success of a Fortune 500 company in the financial sector in the US. He holds a master's degree in information assurance from Bowie State University, and he also has a bachelor's degree in English from Olabisi Onabanjo University in Nigeria. Solomon brings a unique blend of technical expertise and diverse educational background to the field. With numerous certifications in the information security space, Solomon has demonstrated prowess in successfully managing cybersecurity projects for large organizations. Beyond professional achievement, Solomon also takes pride in being a devoted family person. He's married to his lovely wife, and they both have a son who brings immense joy and fulfillment to them. As a Christian, mentor, and influential figure in the workplace, Solomon's positive attitude and boundless energy serve as catalysts for inspiring others to set ambitious goals, persevere, and achieve success. Drawing daily inspiration from God's love, Solomon is not only a powerful force in the corporate realm, but also a compassionate guide for those seeking mentorship. In moments of leisure, Solomon enjoys indulging in activities like binge-watching movies. Don't we all love that? Diving into fictional books and cherishing quality time with family. Solomon Azaka embodies a commitment to excellence, a passion for cybersecurity, and a heart dedicated to both personal and professional fulfillment. So on that note, I'd like us all to welcome Solomon Azaka for a session on cybersecurity. Thank you, Solomon. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear myself. All right. I think we'll just get into it. Let me share my screen properly. We can get started. Right. So, good afternoon. I think you guys are in the Eastern time. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Solomon. Like I've been introduced. We're going to be covering, I've got just 30 minutes, so we're going to be covering certain areas of cybersecurity, introduction to cybersecurity. As a cybersecurity professional, what do we do on a day-to-day? We also want to look at exciting roles in cybersecurity. We want to look at salaries, job prospect. We want to talk about conventional paths to cybersecurity, right? How do you go from being a student, right, to get into the work environment? How do you go from being a nurse? From being a nurse, like if you want to get into cybersecurity, how do you make that journey? How do you go from being an Uber driver, right, and get into cybersecurity? How do you make that journey? And I will share with you real world stories, right? These are not simulated stories. These are things that I have experienced and things that I've been involved in. And we'll also get to ask some questions at the end of this session. So hold your questions and we'll get to it. All right, so I'd like to share this quote by Walt Disney, right? And it says that the way to get started is to quit talking and to begin doing. right? So we live in a TikTok generation, a social media generation, where we do a lot of talking and not a lot of doing, right? So in this space, there are certain things that you need to succeed in this space. Cybersecurity is not for everyone, right? But if you think that you're inquisitive, right? If you love challenging the status quo, if you love asking questions, why is this? If you want to find out the whys, the how to everything, I think you might want to consider a role in cybersecurity, right? Um, and what is cybersecurity, right? The two speakers before me have spoken extensively about the world that we're in, right? The world that we're in it's not the way it was like 5 years ago. Things are rapidly changing, right? We live in a in an age where everything is beginning to shift and things are being driven by technology. There's some years ago when I came to this country, right? If you go into a Walmart store or a Costco store, right, you will see a lot of cashiers and all that. Or you go into a deal or any of this store. Slowly, um, that role of a cashier is being phased out, right? And you have all this self checkout machines, right, that would scan you and scan your products. You pay, right? You have less human interaction, and in every phase of the society that is happening, right? And because as more and more of this happen, right, we need more cybersecurity professionals to help protect the systems that are running these business processes, right? So cybersecurity is the art of protecting networks, devices, right, data from unauthorized access or criminal use. The practice of ensuring confidentiality, integrity, availability, privacy, and security of information, right? Think about it this way: your church, right, as well as the organization that you work for, right? You probably have a bank account, right, or several bank accounts. You have a doctor, right, and the doctor is sitting probably in the doctor's office or in a community of practice. Um, and everything that they do, from making appointments to doing that surgery, is driven by technology. And there's a lot of data that is being collected by this organization, right? And there's a need to protect those data, right? Because we know that when information is leaked, information from your social security to your date of birth, someone can assume, 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 assume who you are and use all that information. They can even open several credit cards in your name, all because the company that houses those particular data are not doing their due diligence to ensure that they protect those data. Probably they don't have enough cybersecurity professionals working for them. So there's a need out there for cybersecurity professionals in every space, right? Whether you're working for a manufacturing company, or you're working for a doctor's office, or you're working for an artificial intelligence company, right? Any company you're working for needs a cybersecurity professional to help protect their systems against attacks, right? And your work on a day-to-day is to make sure that the data that the bank is housing, right? The data that the bank is housing is properly protected, right? The data is confidential, right? And access is restricted to only authorized individuals in the company. And even within the company, you want to make sure that access is only restricted to, you only have access to the data based on the job function that you have or the job responsibility that you have, right? And there are people also in the cybersecurity space making sure that the integrity of that data is protected and make sure enough security controls are implemented in our systems. Our systems have enough encryption, right, in transit, at rest, for the different systems that they're using to run the business, right? So cybersecurity professionals are required in the marketplace, right? They're required in, even if what your company does is produce video game, if your company is a social media, a company like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even if it's a transportation company, they require cybersecurity professionals to make sure that they have the necessary controls in place. The controls are implemented or integrated into their systems, right? If it's a financial organization, let's take a bank for example. A bank would have several applications, right? There is that application that you use as a customer to check your account regularly, probably make check deposit from your home, right? You can transfer funds to friends and family. There's that app that you can use. For the employees of the bank, right, they also have their own suite of applications that they use in running the business of the bank on a day-to-day, right? The cybersecurity professional also is part, of the system and part of the process, and their job is to look at all the assets, right? All the systems that the bank has or that the doctor's office have, make sure that they are protected, right? And that work, it's kind of really, really, really important, right? Because much of our daily life relies on technology. Our job is to make sure that personal information, not just personal information, company information, are protected on all systems, right? So why is cybersecurity important? Cybersecurity is important because most of the work that we do on a day-to-day is dependent on data, right? And if our system is broken into, or if our system is breached and our data is exploited, it might lead to not just lawsuits, a lot of financial loss. It might even lead to reputational damage, right? Nobody wants to bank with a bank that doesn't have proper security controls in place, right? So it's kind of important, right, to have those controls in place, right? So what are the different roles that we have in the cybersecurity space? What are the different roles that you can take advantage of in the cybersecurity space? So I've curated a couple of them, right? There is the cryptologic technicians, and these guys are there to make sure that, all the data that we have is encrypted, our system is encrypted. These guys just basically deal in encryption and hashes. Right now, the national average salary this is a very conservative amount, right? These guys earn more than 48,000 per year, right? So this is very, very conservative, and these are like entry-level roles. But these guys, their duty is to make sure that they have encryption for all the systems, right? And there is this job is available in the public domain as well as in the private domain. So if you want to work for the US government, there are roles like this that you can take advantage of. IT security specialist, this role is quite common, right? They are like entry-level roles also that you can, and basically what these guys do is they make sure that the organization's network is protected, right? They help defend the company's IT systems. And their job responsibility might range from making sure, setting up new users, removing users, performing security training in organizations, making sure that encryptions are in place, making sure that antivirus softwares, are configured on systems, performing control testing and stuff like that. This salary is very, very, very conservative. as well. But on a day-to-day, that's what they do. There's also the role of a security project manager, and these guys are more like, the mid-level manager role, and they oversee different projects, right, within the cybersecurity space. A cybersecurity manager salary is nothing less than 150K. It's not 72. So I don't think Indeed did a good job, curating this for this year. But I would say this is are just like, minimal estimates of what the salary would look like. But their primary role is to make sure that IT projects that we're doing in any company, right, those they monitor the IT projects, they create timelines, they monitor deliverables, right? Everybody, the goals are being met, right? The jobs that are supposed to be executed within 1 month are executed within the time frame, right? And they're reporting, to stakeholders upwards or, depending. So that's basically what a security manager role is. So let's say, for instance, you are implementing a new system, right? The bank or the doctor's office is implementing a new software. They want to move from registering people on paper to taking the registration through a system, right? The cybersecurity manager would oversee the whole project. We want to look at who is going to be assigned this project to do, what timeline, what resources do they need, right? All that is what the security manager would do. The director, right, is a bit, high on the food chain, and believe me, the salary of a security director of security would begin from 180K upwards, right? Not 72. And the director of cybersecurity, basically, or the director of security, right? Because it could be physical security and other type of security, but their job is to make sure that they manage all the employees, they set strategic direction for the organization. So they will have several managers that work underneath them, right? Make sure that all the security, all the systems that they have, all the programs that they have in place, everything is being implemented and properly managed, right? And that's what the director of security would do. There's a forensic analyst, and there are entry rules for these, right? And these guys are basically collecting and evaluating evidence from crime scene. It might not even be a crime scene. It might be a computer crime scene. It might be a fraud case where someone someone is perpetrating a kind of fraud. Things like maybe you are on there are fraudsters on social media website, right? And currently there are a lot of cases out there. And a forensic analyst will be brought in to look at the different trail, right? The person will look at the system, look at the trail of evidence that is available, obtain evidence, analyze that evidence, provide some, insight to what has happened. And the salary of a forensic analyst would be nothing less than 135. And information security analyst, this was my first role, right, that I had. And as far back as this was my first role in America, right? So as far back as 2018, 2019, this role, the entry level for this role is about 125. Right now, we are looking at 135, 145, 155, depending on how large the organization is and what they want you to do. And what is the job of an information security analyst? Basically, what you work with the information security department, and you are looking at the network, you're looking at hardware, software, looking at the different controls that have been built into the system, the different protections that have been built. You're looking at cyber attacks, cyber threats, drawing different scenarios. You might be implementing control, you might be testing controls, you might be looking at the different applications out there, new applications that are being onboarded. You're basically looking at, the internal control environment of the organization and making sure that it is secured. That's what an information security analyst would do. You would analyze information, you perform risk assessment, you would let management know what areas needs, if they are. You perform gap analysis. If there are gaps, security gaps in certain areas, you point them out, and let the organization know, and make sure that the control that is needed to remediate those gaps that you've identified are being done, right? So that's basically, you need to know what all the security standards out there, depending on the field that you're working in. If you're working in an hospital or a medical environment, you want to know what EPA framework. You want to know what the EPA framework is, the different EPA controls out there, and all that. So basically, you're defending the system of the organization, right? And the average salary for this guy starts from, in today's market, right? In today's market, starts from nothing less than 135 upwards, 125, depending on your education, depending on there's several other factors, right, that play into income, right, what you can earn and all that. And there's also the cyber engineer, right, and these guys are networking guys, making sure that our network, are properly protected on a day-to-day. They're troubleshooting computer issues, installing hardwares, modifying softwares, and monitoring virus protection. All that is what their primary duties are. And I tell you, these guys would earn entry level nothing less than 125, 135 on the conservative estimate, right? We have developers that work, right, in the organization. The incident managers, the cybersecurity consultants. Cybersecurity consultants would work for different organizations, right? They can work in consulting organizations like Deloitte, KPMG, Ernst & Young. They're even, consulting organizations that are not the big five, right? And they work for several. They can be working for the government as a consultant of another company, and these guys they are independent contractors, right? So the first job that I got in America was, I was employed as a cybersecurity consultant. I think I remember that clearly, and I got converted to a full time after doing an AI assessment that the organization really liked. And I remember back in 2019, right? My director called me and said, "Oh, that assessment you did, they really liked it. They want to give you a full-time offer for 135." I'm like, "Okay." Then I'd not even graduated from grad school, right? I came into this country as an international student, right? I was still in school when I got my first job. So there's a lot of opportunity in this space. You just need to know what you're doing, and you need to make sure that all the things that needs to be done are done, right? I know the first speaker, speaking from an HR perspective, talked about education, certification, training. I'm going to talk about all that and how you can navigate from not being a cybersecurity person to being a cybersecurity person, how you can navigate all that. There's also the role of an IT auditor, right? This role is very, very common now. And these guys, basically what they do is to evaluate the organization's system, right? They do a lot of control testing, right? And there are a lot of job for IT auditors out there in the commercial sector as well as in the federal space, right? And these guys work like there's job for this particular role. There are several regulations that, because of those regulations, there will always be job for IT auditors, right? Let's take, for instance, SOX, right? SOX is a regulation. EPA is also a federal regulation. Those two regulation mandates that any organization that is within the financial space as well as the medical space. For the financial space, they have to report the earnings, right, every year. And as part of reporting the financial earning, they need to perform an audit of the system and report on that particular audit. So every year, IT auditors, right, for companies that are traded in the stock exchange, in the New York exchange, right, they are required to perform, that audit every year. So they always have a job. So there's if you are a student and you're still, learning at the moment, you might want to consider this as like a starting point for your career, right? There's also system engineers, and these guys, basically what they do is to implement systems, design systems, implement systems, update and maintain infrastructure for organizations. So if you have been looking into AWS, Azure, and you want to go into that line, right? This is the role for you: cybersecurity engineering, learning how infrastructure is set up, learning how to design them, how to implement them, how to manage them, right? Basically, that's what these guys do. Their salary is not 103K per year. This guy and these guys, they earn minimum 140. That's the starting point. So I'm not going to dwell on. There's a lot of role out here. I'm going to put this in the. I'm going to put this in the slide. Hopefully, those that put together this program can share the slide with you. So, what are the unconventional paths, right, to get into cybersecurity? Now, there's a mix. When an HR person is looking at your resume and they want to employ you, there's several things that they look at. They look at your education, right? That is important to big organization, especially if they're employing you full time, right? You need a foundation, right, and a very solid one at that. So you might want to take a course if you are in college, and you are not currently in computer science, management information system, or any of these STEAM courses. You're not currently doing that. You might want to consider doing a cybersecurity course in a community college, right? And I'm suggesting that because it's cheaper, and for some county, it's free. Right. And what that gives you, it gives you, when an HR person is looking at your resume, they know you went to a community college. And the reason why I'm suggesting this is because I have had the opportunity of mentoring a young guy that finished from a community college, right? And he was just out there doing job, doing waiting job, and that's what he does all the time. So we sat down, we spoke about this. He went back to community college, right? Did another course. Sometimes it's a 12 weeks course, sometimes it's like a 3-month course, right? And you come out with a good certificate, right? You do that, and you have that you went to college in the United States, right? And after that is done, there are several courses out there, free courses out there. eCouncil has several online courses that you can take. Right, there's Simply Cyber, the community college out there. There's EDX has a lot. EDX has a lot of cybersecurity courses. Google also has cybersecurity certifications. In Google, cybersecurity certifications. They do have one, right? And you can take that as a means to pivot from where you are into cybersecurity. I'll tell you a story. I have this lady that she was a registered nurse, but she has one kid that has autism. And because she's a registered nurse, she had to work nights. And when she comes back, the child is not himself. So she was looking for a way to pivot and what she can do to make sure that she's there for her kids and be there all the time. It's a difficult decision that she had to make. Having gone through nursing school, being a registered nurse, all that investment, and you have this situation and you're wondering, what do I do? So someone sent my phone number and she called me and she was wondering what to do. So I said, okay, you live in Virginia, you live in this county, they have this community college, but let's not even talk about that. I will send you this Google cybersecurity program, right? It's a crash course. I think it's 8 hours or so. I can't remember again. It was this whole thing happened 2 years ago. So I sent it to her. I said, take this course. Let me know if this is what you really want, right? She took the course and she was able to relate the cybersecurity processes to the different things that they do as a nurse, right? She said she liked it. She believes it's something that she can do. I said, okay, this is what we can do in 6 months, right? You have this community college, right? Go and take this cybersecurity class, right? Ensure that you get the certificates that you did it. It's 3 months, right? While you're doing that, there are several certifications that you might want to consider, right? For the different roles out there, there are several certifications out there. Certifications is something also that HR would look at when they are employing, when they're looking for individuals that they want to employ, right? You have several options depending on the job that you want to do. So I said you could take Security Plus, you could take CISA, you could take Certified in Cybersecurity, right? This is cheap. And because you just graduated from nursing school some years ago, you would have you could register, and get some rebates as a student. That way you don't have to pay the full amount for, some of the certification or for being in that professional body, right? So she did the Certified in Cybersecurity certification, and she did it within 1 month. And she's pretty sharp, right? She did it within 1 month. She finished the community college in 3 months. In 3 months, she was ready, right? So the next thing that I told her to do, now you need to do like a boot camp. But the boot camp should be a on-the-job training boot camp, right? So you can align what you learned, right, in school, in the community college, what the certification that you have, you can align it with the job, right? That way, when you sit before an interviewer, you can speak to the day-to-day of what you do or what you can do, and interviews it's all about being able to, demonstrate your ability to deliver on the job, right? And she did that, and today she's working in this space, right? Another scenario that I have is this Ayo guy, right? Ayo is 26 years old. All he does is waiting job at in the evenings, and that's how he's able to, and the mother wants him to do something else. So the mother called my friend, and my friend called me. And I spoke to the mother. I said, okay, this is what your son can do. If your son is able, if your son can go back to the community college that he has, can you send him back to the university? She said, no, she doesn't have that fund. She can do that at the moment. Okay, there's an easier path, community college, right? Online classes, online courses, take this certification, right? And the guy can talk, right? There are people that are blessed with communication skills, right? So in this role, there are things that you need. You need a basic foundation, right? As you can see, I don't have, my first degree is in English, right? And I walked my way to being where I am, right? So, and I'm telling you what I have done and what I have worked with people to do, Right. I'll give you another story. I have my friend's wife. She used to work as a customer agent at Verizon, and she had done that job for many years. And she was kind of tired of that job and was wondering, how to pivot and what to do. Right. And I would go to her house and ask her, don't you want to take this course? Don't you want to do this? And she would look at me and then one day I went there with the intention, because the husband would complain to me and all that. I was okay. Don't worry, I'll help you. I'll talk to your wife and all that. I said, okay. I went to the wife. I said, okay, this is what you can do. I would mentor you. I would show you the path, right? But you need to take this certification, right? You need to take this online course because you don't have a degree in cybersecurity or in any of the STEAM line, right? So take this certification, do this crash course, right? Then we'll take you on a boot camp of 2 months, right? To make sure that you're ready, right? Apparently, do you know what I did? I actually referred her to my company, and she got a role, right? A role that actually moved her from earning 45K a year to 135, right? So I've documented here several bootcamp online courses that you can take. Sorry, what's going on? Yeah, so Udemy has courses for beginners. Coursera has courses for cyber attacks, right? If you're going in the certified hacker part, right? They have courses for that. In fact, there's course for everything. There's information security big picture on Pluralsight. Pluralsight is like a learning platform, right? That you can do self-learning. Most of the things that I learned today, I learned them in school and I self-learned. Most of my certifications, I will sit down and just read them, just go take them, right? So if you're willing to put in the time, right, there's a path to success in this particular space, right? And there are several, I think University of Michigan also even has, they have a security boot camp, right, as well. But these are some that are free, right, that you can take. So the part is make sure that you have basic foundation in cybersecurity. If you are not willing to go through a community college, you can take online courses, right? And there's several of them here. Make sure you have at least one certification, at least one, right? The basic entry-level ones, Computer Security Plus, Certified in Cybersecurity, CISA, right? Certified Ethical Hacker is not really entry level, but it's mid. And there's also the Security Essential here. This one is entry level. And as you move from entry level to mid management, a certified information security manager would be something that you might be interested in. And the certified information security professional is a bit tough exam, and you need some level of experience in the field to be able to take this certification. So I wouldn't recommend it for an entry-level person, right? And also, soft skill, right, is one of the things that you need to also work on. Communication skill, leadership skill, being able to demonstrate empathy, emotional intelligence, emotional control, self-awareness, right? So there's this young guy that I was talking about that got a job, a 26 years old guy got a job, 135K, and he got fired within 6 months because he wasn't able to emotionally manage the situation. There were days he would go to work and he was rude, right? So as you navigate the job space, make sure that you develop your soft skills, your communication skills. Know when to say what to say and how to say what to say, right? So whatever it is you want to say, there's a way to say it, right? So soft skill is, and as you grow and climb the ladder, Soft skill, if you work in a consulting role, you need soft skills, a lot of them, because you're going to be dealing with clients and customers that are aggressive, that are rude, that are racist, and all that. Being able to self-regulate is very, very important. Know when to pick a fight, know when not to pick a fight, and just walk away, right? So soft skill is important. Cybersecurity boot camps, there's several of them here. You can take advantage of them. I've shared with you real world scenario. I'm going to share with you one more story. So I have this lady that I work with. She just recently moved to America, and she's only been here for 1 year, I guess. And she was doing nursing job, home care. That's what they call it. Yeah, home care job, and that's what she was doing. And she's an high achiever. She wanted something more. And she came to meet me, and somebody introduced her, said, oh, call this person can tell you or guide you and all that. And I took her through the same part as well. Okay, I sent her the Google certificate program, right? Go do this program, let me know if you like it. Let's talk about, what you learned. So she did it, and she came back. She would call me during the weekend. Oh, I did this. I've got the certificate now. This is what I learned. And I like asking probing questions, real world questions. I said, okay, now that you've done this, if you were to secure, maybe you work in a bank, right? And you were employed as a cybersecurity professional. With what you've learned, right? How would you help them secure their systems? Right? Because I want to be sure that, that's what she really wants. And she went on and on and on and on and on. I said, okay, all right. So what you need to do now is go get a certification. You have a choice. This is what you can get the certification. You can get CISA, if you want to be a consultant, IT auditor, this role, get CISA. If you want to be a cybersecurity consultant, get CC, certified in cybersecurity. Right, or get Security Plus, right? And she went. I didn't hear from her for like a month. She registered for the course, did the certification. Oh, I have the certification now. I said, okay, one more thing. You need, because HR is going to check. You have a Nigerian. You're from Nigeria. You have a Nigerian certificate, and your certificate is even in geography and regional planning, right? So go take this course from this community college. The community where she was offering free. They had a grant. So if you wanted to do cybersecurity course, it was free. So she went there, took the course. Right. While she was taking the course, she started interviewing. And she got a job. So she got a job, I think, in a construction company as a cybersecurity consultant. And the job currently pays, I remember advising her on negotiating a salary. I think she got it for like 130, right? And that was like early last year. So, if this is really what you want to do, there is an attitude that you need to cultivate, right? If you're starting a new career, right, you need to be like growth oriented, right? You need to have a positive culture, a positive attitude, right? You need to actually believe in what you want to do. If this is what you have decided to do, right? Believe in your own personal ability, in your own skills, and have faith that you can succeed in this new career, right? Be open-minded, be willing to learn, be willing to try new approaches, right? Be teachable, embrace new ideas, because a lot of you are navigating a new terrain, a new environment. You need to be able to imbibe new ideas, right? And there's a possibility that you will search for a job for more than a month. You can search for a job for less than a month, right? But whatever the situation is, you need to persevere, right? Be persistent. You need to keep pushing, right? Even in the face of obstacle, right? There are situations where you do interview and the interviewer will just go blank on you and you will not hear from them again, right? But don't let that deter you, right? And be flexible, be adaptable, be open to change, right? It's a new career. The market is changing and constantly evolving as well, right? So you need to learn new things. Even the things that you've learned might become obsolete in 3 years, right? So you need to be adaptable. You need to be curious. In this space, we ask a lot of questions. If A is A, we want to know why A is A, right? We ask a lot of questions. Be curious. Be eager to learn as much about your. It's a new field, right? And you need to know how to work with people and collaborate with people, because you're going to work with a very diverse team, people from different parts of the world. You need to maintain a positive attitude as well, right? If you're starting, like, there is a lot of job in America and there is a lot of opportunity in this country. And don't forget that there are 50 states in this country, right? And there are several counties that need cybersecurity professionals as well. So there's a lot of opportunity, but there is, like, there are things that employers are looking for. You need to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, right? As you present yourself for interviews and try to navigate this particular space. So in conclusion, I would say, I'll leave you with two things, right? A scripture and a quote, right? I know a lot of my audience are Nigerians, right? I would say, and we like to pray, right? So pray as you navigate this space. Pray as if, you know, the only thing that you had was God. And read, study, as if you never prayed. And as you do that, right, there will be pushback, but endure, right? Because it will eventually pay off. It will eventually pay off. I haven't been in this country up to 10 years. So I'm speaking from experience. So that is all that I have for you today. I think I would take your questions. And let me see, what questions do we have out there? Maybe, do you guys want me to start from the questions in the chat? Oh, there are no questions in the chat at the moment.
Thank you very much, Solomon. This has been a very interesting session. Cybersecurity, and for a lot of people, I'm sure there are a lot of questions in-house and online. For our online viewers, again, if you please ask your questions via slido.com with the code careers24. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to take some questions online, and then we're going to take some questions in person. Let me start from my in-person folks. I'll give them that privilege. Do we have any questions in-house? Okay, we have a question in-house. Please, I'll need someone to help me with the mic so that I can get to, so that Solomon can see me as well. All right, thank you very much. I think we have someone back there. Please, can you help me? I think the mic is not on yet.
Thank you. There was a lot of information, and I couldn't keep up writing everything. Is there a way we can get access to the slides being presented?
Absolutely. Thank you. Very good question. Yes, we're going to share the slides and every information for all the sessions. Hopefully you registered so that we can get your information. Also, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, it's a recorded session, and we have that for our learnings as well, so we can share that with you. So thank you very much for that question. All right, I'll take the next question online from our online viewers. It says, what are helpful ways the tech and cybersecurity fields can create a conducive environment for the disabled, like those using screen reading software like JAWS?
Okay, so what are helpful ways? Can you just play the question again?
Okay, what are helpful ways the tech and cybersecurity fields can create a conducive environment for the disabled, like those using screen reading software like JAWS?
JAWS, okay. So I think a lot of companies out there have diversity programs, right, for disabled people, right? And I know in the former company that I worked for, right, there were people that most of us worked from home, right? So being in cybersecurity space, most of the jobs you can work from home, right? It's you don't have to practically go into the office all the time, right? And they would make accommodations, right? If you have some form of disability, right? They will make accommodation for you. And it's part of the questions that they will ask. As long as you can demonstrate, I've worked with people that had some form of disability in the workspace, and they practically work from home, right? As long as you can demonstrate that you can do the job, right, in an interview, you would get hired. Right? I've
done the question.
Okay.
And the certification is open to anybody in the world, so it's not like several of these online programs are open to anybody from any part of the world. So you can actually take the online certifications. You can take the online certifications. You can take some of those trainings online as well, right? But America has a process. You can't get a job in this country except you have the proper authorization, right? But you can explore other countries, especially in the Middle East, right? There are opportunities in the Middle East for cybersecurity consultants, right? It's an opportunity that a lot of people are not aware of. And there are a lot of jobs on LinkedIn, especially in Saudi Arabia, companies that have countries that have large companies that are producing or managing, the petroleum industry. They are continually advertise. They continue to advertise on LinkedIn, right? And I know that they employ cybersecurity consultants from India and from other countries in Asia. Yeah, I have a couple of friends on LinkedIn that migrated from Eastern Africa, right, to that part of the country. So America is not the only place where you can get a job as a cybersecurity professional, right? So you might want to, open your search to other places. But if you're going to get a cybersecurity job in America, because of the sensitivity of the data that you're dealing with, you would need a work permit. Right, a work authorization. And if you're working for the government, not just work authorization, you need some level of, some other form of authorization to be able to access data. So explore other part of the world, I would say. Right, and if you can get yourself here, and also another thing is there are also companies in rural America, right? Indiana, the places where people don't really want to go to. They do visa sponsorship as well, right? I've had experience with some of the people that went to grad school together that because they had to stay after grad school, right? They had to move to some of these states. And those states, some of these companies in those states, they don't have a lot of cybersecurity professionals in those states. And they are willing to file for you and do all that processes for you, right? But you have to stay with them for a certain amount of years. So you might, on LinkedIn, when you're doing a search or you're searching for a job, right, search in those areas, Arizona, Indiana, those places that, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
That's it.
Yeah. Before we go into our next question, one of the things you touched about in your slide when you talk about when people are moving or transitioning careers is the open-mindedness, right? In situations like this, I would say, I remember years ago before I came into this country, I knew I wanted to come, right? How I was going to come, I did not know at that time. And I'm talking about years ago, years when the internet was still, not everybody could browse the internet. You had to go to specific places to browse. But I just knew I was going to come, and so I started preparing myself, right? I started taking some of the certifications. Of course, my undergrad was in computer science, but I didn't just limit myself to what I was taught in school. So I went further, did extra things, such that when I came in here, I was ready. So again, to Solomon's point, we don't want to just wait till, okay, when you get to your end goal. You want to make sure you are prepared and you have an open mind to looking at other areas as you navigate the cybersecurity space. All right, so we have another question here. It says, great presentation. What if someone has limited computer skills but is interested in the cybersecurity sector, what it's about? Where do you suggest they start?
If you have limited computer skills, if you're willing to learn, you can acquire the computer skills, right? So where would I advise? If you don't want to go to university and you don't want to spend a lot of money, okay, you have limited computer skills. Are you interested in reading? Right? If you're interested in reading, right, there are courses online. It's a good starting point, right? To decipher if that's what you really want, right, take an online course, right? Make sure that you understand it. Is it something that vibrates with you? Is it something that you want to do? If it's something you want to do, you might want to explore. If you don't want to spend money going to university, go to a community college, right? And you already, right, if you can acquire that knowledge there. And there are community colleges that are a bit practical. You need to go in physically and they will teach you and all that. So that it's also out there, right? So if you don't want to go to a community college and you have money to go to university, go to university.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think there's a question here where somebody was asking, most of the job require clearance. Can you talk about that, and can you acquire, how you can acquire one? Security clearance, basically, if you work for the government, they would file for that security clearance for you. And, probably because they need to demonstrate why you need that clearance and all that. So that is not your responsibility. What you need to do is look for a job that requires clearance, make sure that you pass the interview and they want you, and they will file for the clearance for you, right? And yeah, in terms of clearance, that's usually the way to approach it.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question. Any advice for a high school senior taking AP classes in computer science or cybersecurity to better prepare for college success?
Please say that again, please.
Do you have any advice for a high school senior taking AP classes in computer science or cybersecurity to better prepare for college success?
Yeah. So if you're already in college, you're already on the path, right? For everything that you learn, make sure that you actually know those things, right? Don't just go to college just to graduate. Understand what is being taught, right? Ask a ton of questions, like somebody that actually means what they're doing, right? And because you have an end goal in mind, to either get your job as soon as you're finishing college. What that means is that as you're finishing college, you're interviewing on your last year. You're actually interviewing before you get out of college, right? So understand the rudiments of cybersecurity. Choose a niche, right? It could be risk management, it could be cybersecurity, it could be security engineering, it could be cybersecurity project management. Choose a niche, right? If you have chosen your cybersecurity niche, right, understand the different frameworks out there, right? They're practically going to be teaching you all that. The different frameworks out there, how to implement them. They're going to give you assignments to set up security, set up security engineering assignments, to set up infrastructures, right? And I did a couple of those ones as well. So set up infrastructures in the cloud, most likely, and network those infrastructures together. So they will teach you a bit about networking as well. They will also teach you a bit about project management. Actually know how those things operate in the real world environment. So you can take those experiences and put them in your resume, right? And present them as something that you have done because you've actually built those things, right? That is what it is. That is what, you're just doing it on a smaller scale, right? So if you are a high school senior, take what you're studying. Those things you just don't know how important those things are until you get out of college. But they are very vital and important.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we have online. Do we have any questions in-house? Okay, we have 2 questions in-house. I think we'll start from the lady there.
Thank you very much for that presentation. My question is, what softwares do you or would you advise that people in the business world should have a knowledge of if they want to advance?
What software do you need to have a knowledge of? So basically, your Microsoft suite, right? Funny enough, you don't know Excel. I know this sounds very dumb, but if you can master Excel, man, you have a lot of money waiting for you out there, right? Your Microsoft suite, how to use all that Microsoft suite presentation, Word, all that, basic, right? Know that. And in college, they're going to teach you extra stuff, right? How to build a website, take you through the software development process, right? Understand that, know that as well. But for software, every company has unique softwares that they use, right? Depending on your job responsibility and what you're doing. So I wouldn't point one out because as you get the job, you would need to learn new stuff, right? So basic, have your know how to use your Microsoft suites, right? Know how to use maybe Teams, Zoom, depending on what the organization is going to be using. But if you are still in college, right? If you have assignments that you're being given, I know one of the things that I have on my resume, while I was in grad school, I was able to build my own personal Alexa, right? I made sure that I documented all that in my resume. So if you have projects like that you're doing, right, and the process to build, the software development process to build, because you're going to draw out requirements, right, for that particular small project that you're doing. You draw out requirements, you're going to practically do some form of coding as well, right, to build that tool that you're building. And all the tools that you're using in the process, document it, put it in your resume if you are in college, right?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have one more question in person and then one more online, and that will be a wrap for this session.
Well, thank you. I see all these certifications that you have. I'm actually intimidated. Okay, maybe I should say overwhelmed. Okay, if I'm interested in being an information security analyst or an IT auditor, which certification is relevant?
Yeah. So don't be intimidated. Like I didn't pay for any of those things. I only paid for the first one, and my company paid for every other thing. A good place to start is certified in cybersecurity. The vendor is ISC Square, yeah, and it's not too expensive. You might want to consider that, or you consider a Security Plus, right? But as an IT auditor as well, you have a choice. You can do CISA. CISA is certified information auditor, right? So CISA is a good start for you. And for CISA, the vendor is ISACA. So you go to isaca.com and register and all that. So you can start with either one of them.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, we have our last question here. And it says, basically, how do you show IT experience on your resume without lying?
Okay.
Or to put it in a very interesting way, without padding your resume.
So it depends on what your journey is. Are you in college? If you're in college and you've been part of a group, you know all those group assignments that they give you guys to build websites, right? So what role are you gunning for? Are you gunning for a project management role in IT, or you're gunning for a cybersecurity role in IT, right? You've gone to college and they've taught you all the different frameworks out there, ISO, EPA, SOX, FISMA, FISCAM, NIST, right? So you have the knowledge of it, right? Document it in your resume. Ability to, it's all word. Put it in ChatGPT. ChatGPT will help you organize the words in a very nice way and put it on your resume. You have the knowledge, you can do it, right? So if you've learned it in an online course, you've learned it, and some of the online courses also have like practical assignments, or some of the boot camps that you're going to do are practical assignments, right? You can document all that in your resume, right, as something that you've done without having to pad your resume.
Okay, thank you very much. On that note, I would like to add one more thing there. Really, you don't have to pad your resume. I remember years ago, I went in for an interview, and this was before the pandemic. And while sitting for the interview, or sitting to be called into the interview room, I had this other young dude sit beside me. I peeked at his resume, and he had all bunch of stuff in there. Really, like he did robotics in high school, he put it there. He did all these things, because again, if you're in high school, wherever you are, you will see so many opportunities. Trust me, employers are looking for so many things than just your technical skills, right? So he put so many things in there. I'll be honest with you, I was intimidated. Like, how will I get this job? Knowing that this guy that was vying for the same position as I am had all these things in there. But me, again, it was an interview in person. Based on my experience, I put on my Sunday best, my best jacket and everything. And so we went into separate rooms into the interview. And at the end of everything, when I got hired into the company, during orientation, I saw the same guy too, he got hired. And then we started talking. And I was like, well, you know what? When I saw your resume that day, I was very intimidated. And you know what he told me? He said, when I saw the way you looked, I was intimidated as well. So I said that to say, never limit what you have and who you are. Put in the experiences you have. What you think is small in your eyes can actually be a difference maker in the eyes of the employer. Once again, I just want to thank everyone. And before we wrap things up, we have this, we want to get your feedback, an evaluation survey to see what we've done right and how we can better serve you in this, in our programs going forward. So please, if you can scan the QR code, it's there online. Please do the evaluation for us. Also, I want to appreciate our host church, where Oh, okay, sorry. I was being told I'm blocking. Solomon, okay. Yes. If Solomon is still there, Solomon, again, thank you so much for this wonderful session, for navigating us through the cybersecurity space. I'm sure the questions, people are really taking notes, and we're going to send the slides to people as well. Also, use the opportunity to thank every one of our facilitators, Carla, David, and Solomon. We're so grateful. Again, a huge shout out to our host church, RCCG Winners Chapel, Detroit. We call ourselves the firstborn parish, the first redeemed in the whole of the Americas, for hosting us and for enabling us to do this. Also, we want to thank our partners, the RCCG Yaya Academy for in the Americas, and the career planning team of RCCG Winners Chapel Detroit for helping us put this wonderful session together. Also, we would not be able to do this without you, all our in-person participants and our virtual participants as well. We want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for coming out there, even if it's at the comfort of your homes. Thank you for spending your time, your quality time, and for all the wonderful questions that you've asked. As we wrap things up, I want you to give yourselves a wonderful round of applause. You made it this far. We started out, and you all were amazing. So thank you, and thank you. Just a quick note for those that are in person, we have some refreshments for you somewhere on the multipurpose. If you go outside the hallway, on your left, you will see adequate preparations that have been made for you. So thank you. This will not be the last of our sessions. We'll still have more coming up. So in case you didn't register for it, please make sure you do the evaluation with your details so that we can communicate with you once we have the next round of events. I really enjoyed everything that's been done today. I had a lot of things that I stored up there. One of them was know when to say what to say and how to say what to say. Thank you so much, and until next time, have a wonderful rest of your weekend.